Good day, everyone, and I hope that you are all doing well.
This will be yet another episode of Checking the Truth podcast.
It's been a week, and I do hope that we are all surviving and enjoying ourselves.
We all know that the media has been really widening its power all over the world.
Yes, and I think it is a good thing that it is being utilized to spread news, public awareness, and sometimes critic. However, truth and wrong information are really overlapping with each other.
I do agree with that, but the question is, how would we really be able to distinguish the truth from the wrong ones, right? There's this article that I read from Rappler. It is about Marcos and the media. So it talks about whether the Marcos administration is really giving us what was promised during the campaign. It's funny that as someone who uses social media, the only thing I could remember associated with it was the netizens' critics about him and the news about him not really showing up to the debate and him not giving specific answers with all of the questions that were thrown to him.
Yeah, I see it the same as well. Because now that he has already won the election, his words for me feel very hollow. The disconnect between what he's saying and the actual happenings of the country is what I want to focus on because I also read the article. Um, Basically, action speaks louder than words. Almost anybody like Marcos can say whatever honey words they want to say to improve their public reputation or their public image without talagang actually addressing the issues, which in this scenario is the suppression of freedom of speech, um, and the issues of red tagging, legal cases, media disinformation, and so on and so forth are, for me, evidence enough to see how disingenuous Marcos's words are.
Yes, to add, according to another article, I have counted almost 17 cases of red tagging have occurred in that short period of time. And once again, no action has been done to either investigate or address this persisting issue by Chari Salazar of 2023. Sure. Yeah, so it can be said by Marcos maybe acknowledge these issues with platitudes and statements, but once again, it is not enough.
I would agree. In addition to that, because I also read the article, the deaths of Ray Blanco, Percy Lapin Mabasa, and Crescenciano Aldovino Bandequin, among other journalists during the administration of Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr., thus paint a disturbing picture of the dangers that journalists face when seeking the truth. These incidents highlight the serious challenges facing Philippine media practitioners' safety and freedom of the press.
Also, to build up on what you've said beyond specific cases, the killings of journalists and the subsequent search for justice during the Marcos Jr. administration point to a larger social problem. You know, it demands a thorough reform of all the structures and procedures in order to protect the press freedom, maintain the rule of law, and guarantee that journalists can fulfill their vital role without fear of retaliation. So, in order to address the impunity, law enforcement organizations must work together, judicial reforms must be implemented, and also the government must firmly declare the commitment of upholding the safety and rights of journalists as essential components of democracy.
Those were really intense. But on the other hand, I would like to ask you guys and our listeners if you think that vloggers are now really taking over the media. Because during the campaign, I saw a lot of content creators claiming that they carry the truth. That is where clashes between personalities began, right? And now, accreditation for vloggers are being studied. I mean, if it's not being studied or if it's being studied, it means it's being considered, right? And yeah, what are your takes about it? Because personally, I think it could be an entry point for another wrong information, right? Because pro-Marcos vloggers would arise, and it's gonna make it difficult for the truth to prevail. Although I am not saying that every word they would utter is false, however, I am still hesitant with that idea because biased people with authority are even a threat in society.
I also read about that, and I do agree with you. There was also a part of the article saying that his administration is not closely resembling his father's during his reign. But funny how he blocked the critical media from access, quote unquote, from the article. And fears have been raised about President Marcos Jr.'s tenure in the Philippines media, which is already grappling with issues from the Duterte administration. His father's martial law era, which was notorious for its severe tactics to suppress dissent and stifle journalistic independence, casts a long shadow. Given the nation's ongoing struggles to navigate the complexity of the present while contending with the ghosts of past media suppression, it is only natural that a critical analysis of the dynamics under the younger Marcos be conducted in light of this historical background. Concerns about the possible effects on press freedom during this new phase of the Philippine government are heightened by historical resonances.
So basically, what we are all trying to say is that suppressing and allowing media has its own strengths and weaknesses. Suppressing it would blind the people, and allowing it comes with a risk like red taggings, killings, and journalists being hunted. What do you think, guys, would be the best recommendation in addressing the aforementioned issues?
Well, for me, my recommendation towards the situation is that like more people should be given an opportunity to voice out their opinions, like no matter who they are or where they came from. Because if Marcos wants to actually foster freedom of speech, then proper channels or platforms should be established for people like journalists, content creators, bloggers, and so on and so forth. He should create an environment where freedom of speech is the norm, where it was mentioned in this article by Katherine Legaspi, released in 2023. Ever since Duterte's retirement, Marcos has more or less continued or normalized the same tactics of control that Duterte used over the media, hence making the status quo of how information is now more hard to access or release. I agree with the statement that I read from the article that the status quo should be challenged to allow more leeway for freedom of speech.
Yes, with the freedom to express themselves, the voice of the journalist acts as the defenders of the truth, questioning authority, exposing injustice, and building an informed public that is able to make wise decisions. Preserving the integrity of our collective conscience and guaranteeing a society where different viewpoints and voices contribute to a richer, more democratic discourse are the goals of upholding this freedom, which goes beyond simply protecting individuals.
While it is critical that Marcos Jr.'s administration place a high priority on open communication and provide an even playing field for all media sources, given the fine balance that exists between media freedom and control, in order to promote a positive media environment, it will be essential to reinforce the systems that protect journalistic independence and resolve red tagging concerns.
Yes, a multifaceted strategy including systemic adjustments, objective investigation, and a firm stand against any attempts at hindering justice are needed to combat impunity. A democratic society's foundation, press freedom must be protected, allowing journalists to continue their vital role of educating the public and holding those in positions of authority fearlessly.
To sum everything up, even when Marcos Jr. departs from his father's extreme methods and Duterte's overt animosity, there are still issues with media freedom. The degree of press independence is called into doubt by the reliance on social media domination and connections with powerful media families. An important task for Marcos Jr.'s administration would be achieving a balance between press freedom and state authority.